Welcome back to our channel Rare Coins Hub. In today's video, we're going to explore something really interesting and exciting. So, if you want to find out what you'll learn by staying with us till the end, make sure to watch the whole video. Stay with us and don't forget to like and subscribe. Let's get started. The year is 1975. It was a year of change and transition for both the world and the United States. Around the globe, history was unfolding, and in the US, the landscape of currency was about to shift in a way that would go unnoticed by most, but not by those who truly understood the hidden potential of every coin minted. Among the many coins being produced by the US Mint, the 1-cent penny had a story to tell. This small, seemingly insignificant coin would eventually find its place in the hearts of collectors, marking the beginning of a fascinating journey that would capture the imagination of numismatists. But what made the 1975 penny so special, you may ask? Well, to understand why this penny would eventually become a star in the numismatic world, we need to start with the context of the time. In 1975, the United States was in the midst of significant social and economic changes. The Vietnam War had ended just a few years earlier, the Watergate scandal had shaken the political landscape, and the country was facing economic challenges, including inflation and the devaluation of the dollar. Yet, amid these concerns, there was something the country was about to celebrate: the 200th anniversary of the founding of the United States. This milestone would be commemorated in a multitude of ways, from grand celebrations to commemorative coins and stamps. For the penny, however, it was a quiet moment in its long history. The 1975 penny would not bear the grand symbolism or redesign that would later be introduced in 1976 to celebrate the bicentennial. However, it still had an important story to tell. Before diving into the specifics of the penny's design and its minting, let's take a step back and look at the context of the coin itself. The penny had been in circulation since 1793, making it one of the longest-serving coins in U.S. history. For more than 180 years, the penny had undergone only slight design modifications, with the most notable change being the introduction of Abraham Lincoln's portrait on the obverse, the front, in 1909. Lincoln, the 16th President of the United States, would continue to grace the penny's face for generations to come. But in 1975, the penny was still very much a symbol of daily life, with its copper composition and familiar design offering a sense of stability in a time of uncertainty. But 1975 was more than just another year in the coin's long history. It was a turning point. The U.S. Mint was faced with increasing production costs, particularly in the price of copper. In fact, by the mid-1970s, the price of copper was soaring, making it more expensive to mint pennies. The cost of copper was so high that the U.S. Mint was finding it more difficult to produce pennies without spending more than their face value. This issue would ultimately lead to changes in the composition of the penny, beginning in 1982. However, at the time of the 1975 penny's production, the coin was still made primarily of copper. So, what made the 1975 penny stand out in the eyes of collectors? While it didn't feature any dramatic changes in design or composition like other coins minted during this time, the 1975 penny's value would later be shaped by something more subtle, a unique minting error that would go on to capture the attention of numismatists around the world. The first thing to understand about the 1975 penny is that, like other years before it, it featured the famous portrait of Abraham Lincoln designed by Victor David Brenner. Lincoln had appeared on the penny since 1909, marking the 100th anniversary of his birth. Brenner's design was simple yet powerful, capturing the stoic features of Lincoln, the man who helped guide the nation through its darkest days. The reverse of the penny, at the time, still featured the familiar wheat ears design, which had been in place since 1909 as well. This wheat design was a symbol of America's agricultural roots and was iconic in its own right. However, 1975 saw a subtle but important change in how the coin was produced. The U.S. Mint, facing both an increase in copper prices and rising production costs, continued to mint pennies in large quantities, but there was an anomaly. Some 1975 pennies were produced with an unusual feature, a mint mark issue that would eventually lead to a major increase in collector interest. Normally, the U.S. Mint's coins feature a mint mark indicating where they were produced. The mint marks are D for Denver, S for San Francisco, and no mint mark at all for the Philadelphia Mint. In 1975, however, something curious occurred at the Philadelphia Mint. For a brief period, the mint marks were either absent or incorrect, creating a rare variation of the 1975 penny that was not immediately recognized for its rarity. This issue was not well known until years later when collectors and experts began to realize the significance of these no mint mark pennies. For a long time, these 1975 pennies were simply circulated as regular coins, and it wasn't until much later that the true value of these no mint mark pennies began to rise. The error variety, where the mint mark was either missing or incorrect, made these coins exceedingly rare, as the majority of the pennies produced in 1975 had the proper mint mark, either D for Denver or none at all for Philadelphia. At the time of circulation, a 1975 penny, even without the mint mark error, was worth just 1 cent. However, over the years, as collectors began to recognize the rarity of the error pennies, their value skyrocketed. The discovery of this error variation, combined with the historical significance of the coin and its limited numbers, made the 1975 penny one of the most valuable coins among modern American currency. While there were many pennies produced in 1975, the specific errors were far rarer, creating a significant collector demand. So, what is the value of a 1975 penny today? You might be wondering how this seemingly ordinary coin could be worth so much. The truth is, a 1975 penny in perfect condition, particularly those with the minting error, can fetch a remarkable price on the market. While most 1975 pennies are still valued at just 1 cent, the rare mint mark errors, particularly those without a mint mark or with incorrect mint marks, have become incredibly valuable to collectors. The most highly valued examples of these error pennies, in mint condition, have sold for as much as $132,000. That's right, $132,000 for a single penny. The appeal of this coin is driven by a combination of factors: rarity, historical significance, and the allure of an error variety that stands out in an era of regular mass production. Collectors who specialize in rare and unusual coins are often willing to pay top dollar for these limited edition error pieces, making the 1975 penny a sought-after item in the numismatic world. For those lucky enough to find a 1975 penny with the rare mint mark error, it represents more than just a piece of currency. It is a testament to the unpredictable nature of coin collecting and the stories that are hidden in the smallest of details. Coins, after all, are not just pieces of metal, they are snapshots of history, reflecting the world in which they were made, and the people who used them. A 1975 penny, with its historical context and error variety, serves as a tangible reminder of the ways in which the past can live on in the most unexpected of places. As we bring this story to a close, we can appreciate how something as small as a penny can hold so much value, not just in terms of money, but in terms of the history, the craftsmanship, and the mistakes that make them so unique. The 1975 penny, for all its humble origins, has become a symbol of rarity and the unexpected journey that coins can take from everyday change to treasured collectibles. So, the next time you find yourself with a handful of pennies, take a closer look. You never know, the next one you find could be worth far more than just its face value. The year is 1984. It's a time of change in the United States, but at the same time, it's a time of consistency in the realm of currency. The world was rapidly advancing in technology, politics, and culture, yet some things remained constant. The American penny, a staple of daily life, continued to be minted by the billions. Most people didn't give much thought to the penny. It was, after all, just a 1-cent coin, often dismissed as insignificant and even burdensome. Little did anyone know, however, that within those humble pennies was hidden a treasure trove of stories, errors, and opportunities that would captivate collectors for years to come. And one such penny, the 1984 US 1-cent piece, would play a pivotal role in that journey. In the early 1980s, the United States was recovering from the turbulent economic events of the late 1970s. Inflation was a significant concern, and the U.S. Mint had already faced rising costs in the production of its coins. One of the primary challenges of the time was the increasing cost of copper, the metal that made up much of the composition of coins, including the penny. As the price of copper soared, the mint's budget and production processes were put under strain, leading to significant changes in the way coins, especially the penny, were produced in the years to follow. However, the 1984 penny would not immediately signal a major shift in how the U.S. Mint operated. It would remain largely the same as previous pennies, at least on the surface. But the significance of the 1984 penny lies not just in its production or in its seemingly unchanged appearance, but in the rare errors that would go unnoticed for some time, only to surface later as some of the most highly valued pennies in numismatics. Before we get into the fascinating details of the error pennies, let's first take a step back and appreciate the 1984 penny as it was originally designed. As it had been for decades, the penny featured the iconic image of Abraham Lincoln, the 16th President of the United States, designed by the sculptor Victor David Brenner. Lincoln had graced the front of the penny since 1909, marking the 100th anniversary of his birth. His somber, dignified portrait had become synonymous with the penny, symbolizing leadership, freedom, and the enduring spirit of the nation. On the reverse side of the penny, we still saw the traditional design, a shield of wheat ears that had been used since 1909 as well. The wheat ears were a tribute to America's agricultural roots, a simple yet powerful image of the country's beginnings. This design had been in place for decades, and in 1984, it remained a familiar and reassuring sight for Americans as they went about their daily lives. But while the penny itself seemed unchanged, the U.S. Mint was hard at work behind the scenes, preparing for future changes to the coin's composition and production processes. The Mint had been struggling with rising costs for some time, and by the end of the decade, it would eventually switch to a different metal mixture to address these issues. But 1984 was still a time of relatively traditional minting practices. The penny continued to be made primarily from copper, with a small amount of tin and zinc added to the mix. However, 1984 would become important in the history of the penny for a different reason. It was a year when a small, yet significant minting error would occur, and these errors would eventually be uncovered by savvy collectors who would go on to change the trajectory of the coin's value forever. The 1984 penny was struck in large quantities. Over 7 billion of these coins were minted that year. Most of these coins were produced in the normal fashion, but like any large-scale production, mistakes were made. In fact, a small number of these 1984 pennies were produced with a rare error that would go unnoticed at first but would soon catch the attention of eagle-eyed numismatists. The error in question is known as the 1984 double die penny. This error occurs when a coin is struck more than once, and the second strike is slightly misaligned with the first. As a result, the design appears to be doubled, with the lettering and numbers appearing blurry or out of place. In the case of the 1984 penny, the double die error is most noticeable in the date, 1984, where the digits appear thickened, or doubled, creating a distinctive and unusual look. At first, most people didn't think much of the 1984 penny. After all, it was just another penny among billions in circulation. It wasn't until collectors and error coin enthusiasts began to scrutinize these coins closely that they realized something unusual was going on. The 1984 double die penny was a rare mistake, one that didn't occur in large quantities. In fact, only a small number of these pennies were minted with the double die, making them an incredibly sought-after collectible. For years, these error pennies remained a mystery to the broader public. It wasn't until the late 1990s, when the world of numismatics began to expand thanks to the internet and specialized coin forums, that the 1984 double die penny started to gain attention. As more and more collectors realized the value of this rare error, the demand for the coin skyrocketed. What was once seen as a small mistake on a common coin was now considered a hidden treasure, and collectors began to compete for the chance to own one of these prized pieces. The value of the 1984 double-die penny grew steadily over the years. At first, these coins were valued at a few $100s, but as more collectors sought them out, the price began to climb. Today, a 1984 double-die penny in mint condition can sell for an astounding price. The rarity of the era, combined with the significance of the coin's design and the historical context of its minting, makes the 1984 penny an iconic piece of American numismatics. So, what is the current value of a 1984 double-die penny? This is where the story gets even more exciting. While most 1984 pennies are still worth only 1 cent, the double-die era has made certain examples worth significantly more. In fact, a high-quality 1984 double-die penny, particularly one in uncirculated condition, can fetch a price of up to $124,000. Yes, that's right. A single penny, which was once considered nothing more than a small, everyday coin, can now be worth over $100,000. Why has the 1984 double-die penny become so valuable? The answer lies in its rarity. While billions of 1984 pennies were minted, only a few of them feature the double-die error. As with most rare coins, the fewer there are, the more valuable they become. Add to this the fact that the 1984 penny holds historical significance as part of the larger landscape of U.S. coinage during a period of economic change, and you have a coin that has become highly sought after by collectors and investors alike. For those who are lucky enough to own one of these rare coins, it represents more than just a monetary value. It is a piece of history, a reminder of how even the smallest mistakes in a coin's production can lead to treasures that last for generations. Whether you are a seasoned numismatist or a casual collector, the 1984 double-die penny stands as a testament to the unexpected and fascinating world of coin collecting. As we wrap up this exploration of the 1984 penny, we're reminded that sometimes the most valuable treasures can come from the most ordinary places. A penny, which most people would discard without a second thought, has become one of the most coveted coins in the world. So, the next time you find yourself holding a handful of pennies, take a moment to look a little closer. You never know what hidden treasures might be just beneath the surface, waiting to be discovered. In the year 1988, the world was undergoing major changes. The Cold War was winding down, and technology was starting to impact lives in ways that would shape the future. Yet, in the United States, there were still familiar constants, one of them being the 5-cent coin, commonly known as the nickel. For the vast majority of people, the nickel was a utilitarian coin, used in everything from vending machines to the purchase of small goods. It was just a part of the fabric of everyday life. But as we know in the world of numismatics, sometimes the most ordinary things can hold extraordinary value, and the 1988 5-cent coin would come to be one of those coins. At first glance, the 1988 nickel looks like any other. It bears the iconic portrait of Thomas Jefferson, the third President of the United States, designed by Felix Schlag. Jefferson, who was instrumental in the founding of the nation and in drafting the Declaration of Independence, had his image featured on the nickel since 1938. The coin's reverse side prominently displays Jefferson's Monticello estate, a symbol of America's agrarian past and Jefferson's own love for architecture and education. These designs, beloved and familiar, would remain unchanged for decades, cementing the 1988 nickel as part of a larger narrative of American coinage. But beneath the surface of this seemingly typical coin lies a fascinating story, one that combines historical context, minting practices, and the occasional accident of fate. To fully appreciate why the 1988 5-cent coin holds a special place in the world of numismatics, we need to understand a bit more about the broader context in which it was minted and circulated. The year 1988 was a time when the U.S. Mint was producing billions of coins each year to keep up with the country's growing economy. During the 1980s, the U.S. Mint faced increasing demand for circulating coinage, driven by a booming population and a strong economy. It was also a time of change, as the U.S. Mint had already started to experiment with different coin metals in response to rising production costs. Nickel, the primary metal in the 5-cent coin, remained an essential component of American currency, but there were growing concerns about its expense. Copper and nickel prices had been rising steadily, making it more expensive for the mint to produce these coins. And as the 1990s approached, these challenges would eventually lead to changes in the composition of U.S. coins, but in 1988, the nickel remained largely unchanged in terms of its metal content. The 1988 nickel's design, as it had been for decades, was based on the classic Jefferson obverse and Monticello reverse, both of which had been used since the late 1930s. There was no indication at the time that any radical changes were coming to the nickel in the immediate future. The coin, as minted in 1988, followed the same procedures that had been used for years, struck with care and precision at one of the U.S. Mint's facilities, either in Philadelphia or Denver. Now, it's important to note that, like every coin minted, the vast majority of 1988 nickels were mass-produced in standard quantities. Billions of these coins were put into circulation, becoming part of the everyday economy. Most people used them without a second thought, exchanging them for candy, tolls, or small items at the store. For years, these nickels were simply another coin in the pile, discarded and forgotten by many as the value of 5 cents seemed negligible in a world of growing prices and expanding markets. But hidden within the flood of ordinary 1988 nickels, there was a small, rare subset that would go on to capture the attention of numismatists. You see, as much as the U.S. Mint strives for perfection, errors occasionally slip through the cracks, and the 1988 nickel would not be exempt from this reality. Among the thousands of perfectly struck nickels, a few were produced with significant minting errors that would, over time, become the center of intense interest in the numismatic community. The first error that would catch collectors' attention was the 1988 double die obverse nickel. This error occurred when the die used to strike the coin was misaligned or failed to properly reset between strikes, resulting in a coin with a doubled appearance. The most noticeable feature of this error was on the lettering, particularly the word Liberty and the date, 1988, where the inscriptions appeared thickened or duplicated. The extra image created by the error gave the coin a distinctive, almost blurred appearance, making it highly recognizable to anyone who was familiar with error coins. Such errors, while rare, were not entirely unheard of. Double die coins have been prized by collectors for centuries, and they can fetch significant sums when discovered. The 1988 double die obverse nickel quickly became the subject of fascination for collectors, who scoured change jars, coin rolls, and bank purchases, looking for this rare variation. While the error was not widespread, it was enough to make the 1988 double die obverse one of the most exciting coins for error coin enthusiasts. While the double die variety of the 1988 nickel was certainly rare and sought after, another factor contributed to the rising interest in this coin: its growing appeal to collectors. The 1988 double die obverse nickel, and other error varieties of the 1988 coin, became a symbol of the hunt for hidden treasures in everyday life. Collectors, who had long been fascinated by the world of U.S. coins, now had a new challenge in their sights: find and preserve the rarest variations of these coins, and watch their values soar. To understand why this error variety, in particular, became so valuable, we need to consider the history of coin collecting itself. U.S. coins, including the nickel, have always held a certain appeal to collectors. There's something about the design, the history, and the craftsmanship of these coins that attracts enthusiasts. While the face value of a coin may be a mere fraction of a dollar, the rarity, the condition, and the unique features of a coin can cause its value to increase exponentially. This is the essence of the numismatic world. What may seem like a piece of pocket change to one person may be worth thousands of dollars to a knowledgeable collector. As the 1988 double die obverse nickel gained attention and interest, its value began to rise. At first, a coin like this might fetch a few $100s, but as more collectors and investors sought after it, the price began to climb. The fact that only a small number of these coins were produced with the era made them even more valuable. Rarity is one of the key factors that drives coin prices, and with fewer of these coins circulating, their demand grew. The real surprise came when, over the years, the 1988 double die obverse nickel was valued at a jaw-dropping amount, $140,000. Yes, a nickel that was once worth just 5 cents could now command a value in the six figures. It's not just about the rarity of the era itself, but about how these coins have become a symbol of the collecting world, a chance to own a piece of American history with a fascinating, one-of-a-kind twist. So how did this happen? It all comes down to the confluence of several factors: the rarity of the era, the demand for unique and scarce coins, and the interest from collectors who value the historical significance of the 1988 double die obverse nickel. Over time, the coin went from being a forgotten pocket change item to becoming one of the most coveted coins in the world of numismatics. Today, the 1988 double die obverse nickel continues to be a source of excitement for collectors, investors, and historians alike. As with all rare coins, its value will fluctuate depending on the market and the condition of the coin, but for those who are lucky enough to own one, it represents much more than just a rare mistake at the mint. It's a symbol of how, in the world of coin collecting, the most unexpected and seemingly ordinary objects can turn into something extraordinary. So, the next time you're handling a handful of nickels or browsing through a coin roll, take a moment to inspect them carefully. You never know what hidden treasure might be waiting for you, just like the 1988 double die obverse nickel, which is now worth an incredible $140,000. Whether it's a mistake, a design variation, or just an unusual piece, the world of coins is full of surprises, and for collectors, the thrill of the hunt is always part of the journey. The year 1990, a pivotal moment in history for the United States and for the world. The economy was in the midst of transition, the Cold War was coming to a close, and technological advances were rapidly changing the way people lived and worked. But amidst all these global and national shifts, something else remained largely unchanged: the 5-cent coin, commonly known as the nickel. This humble coin, a staple of everyday life, continued to serve as the bridge between small transactions and large-scale commerce, yet few understood the significance this particular coin would later hold in the world of numismatics. In 1990, the 5-cent coin, still featuring the likeness of Thomas Jefferson, was in full circulation. To many, it was just another coin in their pocket, reliable, unremarkable, and useful. However, like so many other coins before it, this simple piece of currency would go on to play a role far greater than its value as a mere 5-cent denomination. Behind its design, its minting process, and the collectors who sought it out, the 1990 nickel would become a star in the world of rare coins, prized not for its face value, but for the exceptional rarity of one of its variations. To fully appreciate the significance of the 1995 cent coin, we need to start with the context of the time. The United States was entering the final decade of the 20th century. The economy, which had gone through several booms and busts over the years, was experiencing growth following the economic recessions of the early 1980s. Inflation was under control, and many Americans were hopeful about the future. However, the coins circulating in the pockets of citizens were still very much rooted in the traditions of earlier eras, including the nickel. The design of the 1995 cent coin remained largely unchanged from previous years, continuing the legacy of the Jefferson nickel. Introduced in 1938, the Jefferson nickel had become a key part of American currency. Designed by Felix Schlag, the coin featured an image of Thomas Jefferson, the third President of the United States, on the obverse, or front, of the coin. Jefferson's profile was framed by the words "Liberty" and "In God We Trust," along with the year of minting. Jefferson, one of the key figures in the founding of the nation, became the symbol of the nickel, which represented not just a coin but the ideals of freedom and democracy. On the reverse side, the coin showed a representation of Jefferson's home, Monticello, a symbol of American heritage and the nation's agricultural roots. This design had been in place since 1938 and would remain until 2004, when a new design was introduced to mark the bicentennial of the Lewis and Clark expedition. But in 1990, Monticello continued to dominate the reverse side, with the word Monticello placed above it and the denomination 5 cents inscribed below. The 1990 nickel was struck at the three main U.S. mint facilities, Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. As with most coins, the vast majority of the 1990 nickels were minted in Denver and Philadelphia. However, a key aspect of the 1990 nickel story would revolve around a small but significant minting error that would go largely unnoticed by the general public at the time. The issue began with the San Francisco Mint, which was responsible for producing proof coins, specially struck coins designed for collectors. In the case of the 1990 nickel, a small but important error occurred during the minting process, leading to the creation of a very rare variety of the coin that would later spark immense interest in the world of coin collectors. This error occurred in the die used to strike the coins, resulting in a unique variation of the 1990 nickel that would become known as the 1990s double die nickel. The double die error is a fascinating and relatively rare mistake that occurs when a coin die strikes the coin more than once, and the second strike is slightly misaligned with the first. As a result, the design on the coin appears to be doubled, with the images and text becoming blurred or thickened. In the case of the 1990s double die nickel, this error was particularly noticeable on the obverse of the coin, where Jefferson's portrait, the year, and the letters were slightly misaligned, creating a unique and visually striking effect. The double die caused the lettering to appear thicker than normal, with some parts of the coin's design, such as the word Liberty, showing more pronounced features than others. At the time of production, these double die errors went largely unnoticed by most. The U.S. Mint continued to strike billions of coins, and no immediate attention was drawn to this subtle yet significant flaw in the 1990s nickels. It wasn't until years later, as the world of coin collecting became increasingly accessible thanks to the internet and online marketplaces, that collectors began to take notice of this error. The discovery of the 1990s double die nickel sent shockwaves through the numismatic community, as this coin was not only rare but also in demand among coin collectors. While most 1990 nickels are worth, well, just 5 cents, the 1990s double die nickel holds a special place in the hearts of numismatists. A coin that was once considered a mere everyday transaction piece had suddenly become a highly sought-after collectible. As word spread about the rarity of the coin and its unique error, the prices of the 1990s double die nickels began to rise. As with any rare coin, the value was driven by both its rarity and its demand among collectors, but the real question is, how much can a 1990s double die nickel fetch today? This is where the story takes a remarkable turn. Although most 1990 nickels are still worth just a few cents, the error variety, the 1990s double die nickel, can be worth an astonishing amount. In fact, a 1990s double die nickel in uncirculated, high-grade condition has been known to sell for as much as $136,000 at auction. That's right, a nickel that was once worth just 5 cents could now be valued at over $100,000. The rarity of the coin, combined with the unique nature of the error, has made it one of the most highly coveted items in the world of modern U.S. coinage. So, what makes this coin so valuable? There are a few key factors at play. First and foremost is the rarity of the error itself. Only a small number of 1990s nickels were struck with the double die, making this variation a rare find among the billions of coins that were produced that year. Secondly, the condition of the coin plays a significant role in determining its value. A well-preserved coin, particularly one with minimal wear and tear, will command a higher price. Finally, the appeal of the coin to collectors drives demand, and as more collectors seek to add the 1990s double die nickel to their collections, the price continues to rise. The story of the 1990s double die nickel serves as a reminder of the unpredictable nature of coin collecting. What might seem like an ordinary coin, passed through many hands and spent on trivial purchases, can transform into a valuable collectible with time. These hidden treasures are out there in circulation, waiting to be discovered by the keen eyes of collectors who understand the importance of rarity, design, and history. As we look back at the 1990 nickel, we can see that this seemingly simple coin holds a much greater significance in the world of numismatics than most could have ever imagined. From its production in the late 1980s to its rise in value as a rare error coin, the 1990s double-die nickel has proven that even the smallest mistakes can lead to the greatest rewards. So, the next time you come across a handful of nickels, take a moment to examine them carefully. You never know, one of those 5-cent coins might just be worth far more than you think. The world of coin collecting is full of surprises, and with a little patience and a keen eye, you might just discover the next great treasure hiding in plain sight.